Yeah, it looks like it. I want to go back.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We've been asked to do an update on SR 710 North, and in the interest of time, I'll go through the slides relatively quickly. Not a lot has changed on the project from our last presentation to you. About a year ago. The study area, as you remember, was a very broad area. We were asked to look at many different modes and not just closing spots A and B as we did this study. So we looked broadly through the area through a series of alternatives. And we've really at this time taken it down to 5 alternatives that are under study as we do the environmental document. We always do a no-bill alternative. Then there's the transportation system management, transportation demand management alternative. And then we have really 3 build alternatives that we're looking at. First one is a bus rapid transit alternative. I believe we presented this last time at the north end. We're circling basically Pasadena City College and Caltech, bringing it on Del Mar Avenue, then down Fair Oaks to Pasadena and South Pasadena, up Cummington to Atlantic. We take it down Atlantic all the way past the Gold Line in East, East Los Angeles, down to Whittier Boulevard. It performs much better if we go that far due to the large number of east-west traffic there. We have a light rail alternative, which is a tunnel that starts up in Pasadena near our station there, one of our stations there, so we can have a Gold Line access. It continues south, primarily along Fair Oaks Avenue, transitions over so we can have a station at Cal State LA, and then ends at, again, the Gold Line in unincorporated East Los Angeles College. And then we have a freeway tunnel alternative, which is the portal for the freeway. The south end of the portal is south of Valley Boulevard, north of the 10 freeway, traverses the tunnel throughout the corridor, and then comes out of the tunnel north, actually, of Del Mar, for those of you that are familiar with the north end, between Del Mar and Green, south of the 210 and 134 freeway interchange. So those are the 3 build alternatives. It is an important project. It's in the SCAG's regional transportation plan. It was identified in Measure R as a main project. It was passed by 2/3 of the voters in Los Angeles County in 2008. As such, our board is directed to forward an environmental document for that. We're making great progress on that. These 5 alternatives. We've done all the alternatives analysis. We're now pulling together the technical documents from that. We anticipate that next spring we'll have a draft environmental document that will be out for circulation. So we can begin discussing alternatives, what would be a preferred alternative from the point of having data we can compare and contrast. And with that, we clearly have a number of methods of communication, including something like our as important as tweet thing and Facebook stuff. And we have our conditional methods as well. Phone banks, web pages, and then, so with that, Kerry and I, Caltrans, I'm sorry, Doug Bailey, LA Metro, and I have with me Kerry Mullins, District Director for Caltrans District 7. Caltrans is the CTC Meeting lead on the project. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
So the date for the release of the first draft of the EIR is when? This coming spring?
Yes, it's spring of 2014. The current schedule shows it in March, April is what we're anticipating. Perhaps May. We have to start assembling the documents, go through the legal reviews, but we're targeting spring of 2014.
Okay. And I assume there'd be a series of public hearings and comment
Absolutely.
period
Absolutely.
for the public. And you've got that, you're starting to figure out what that schedule looks like too.
Yeah.
And,
Yes,
and I guess my question is, when do you see the EIR coming?
We normally bring it to the Commission post FEIR time, and it gives the Commission a chance to certify it for future consideration for funding. I would anticipate that happening in early 2015. We are anticipating quite a few comments and a need to work through that.
Okay. Just you
Yes.
Thanks, Tom. Any other questions?
He said,
Okay, I have at least 14 speakers that have signed up to speak here. In deference to time, could you kind of limit your comments to 3 minutes? How's that? And I want to start by announcing the first three: Anthony Portantino, Odo Stamps, and Sylvia Plummer.
oh boy.
You missed the assembly, Anthony?
I used to be, Mr. Chairman, I used to be. Hopefully I can stay within 3 minutes, but I would respectfully ask for a little latitude if I run a little over. Thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for having this on the agenda. And I actually find one thing that I agree with Mr. Failing. Not a lot has changed. Here we are almost a decade into this project, and we don't know how much it's going to cost. And we don't know what the benefit is going to be. We have no credible benefit or traffic information that has been made available to the public. And I thought it was interesting listening to Tom talk about the project in the Coachella Valley, which had actually conducted a cost-benefit analysis and actually has a funding plan before they do the EIR. What a novel concept to actually know what you're buying before you start spending millions of dollars. So 3 years ago, I spoke before the commission, and commissioners were quite concerned that there was no cost analysis available. And you all sat up and asked very good questions and talked to Mr. Failing about getting that data, and here we are 3 years later, still absent any credible information. One thing I do find that's interesting, one of the funding models that's being used for this project is based on the Alaskan Way project at $1.13 billion per mile, and we're told that that's the same funding model that's being used for the Sepulveda Pass project and the 710. But interestingly, the Sepulveda Pass project using the same funding model is $10 billion, but the 710, which is actually longer, but the same gauge, is half that. So how can we be using the same funding model but coming up with half the cost? So I would say if MTA is the lead agency, if they can't do basic math, we should find another lead agency for this project. We're then told that all of a sudden one tunnel might disappear in order to meet the $5 billion price tag. Well, if all of the basis for this project has been for a decade on 2 tunnels, if we suddenly cut it to 1, don't we lose the necessity for the project? I would argue yes. So again, I would say it's very crystal clear at a time when the taxpayer limited dollars are being stretched as much as we can, that we don't spend the $780 million of Measure R money on a project that we already know doesn't pencil out. One of the MTA commissioners has repeatedly asked for a cost-benefit analysis. And if you go back to 2006, the region was promised that we would not move to an EIR until a cost-benefit analysis was conducted. Every effort to get one put on the table has been voted down again by the lead agency. The lead agency question is also very interesting because the same MTA commissioner has asked to have county council say who's actually in charge, who's going to make the decision, and guess what? The document that was issued by county council is being kept secret. County council told the board members, do not release the document to the public. They tried illegally to go into closed session to talk about a memo, and as all of you know, you can only go into closed session to talk about property acquisition, litigation, or personnel. A memo on who's in charge doesn't fall into any of those 3 categories. When audience members shouted them down not to go into closed session illegally, they said, well, we'll just keep the memo secret. So again, if you have an agency that can't answer the question, who's in charge, how can you trust them with a $10 billion project? Again, I go back to P3. It's interesting that the slide said freeway. Freeways are free. P3s have tolls. This is a toll road. Again, at very least, it should be called what it is, a tollway. And so if you have an agency making a presentation before this board, calling it a freeway, when it is in fact a tollway, that should send a red light, very, very blinking. Mr. Kempton, when he was The director of Caltrans, again, reiterated to the region that before this project moved forward, a cost-benefit analysis would be done. And he tasked MTA with task order 5. Interestingly, within 2 months of him leaving that post, task order 5 was red penciled out. Red penciled out. So here we are, 3 years later. We don't know the cost. We don't know the impact on arterial streets. Oh, by the way, a toll will create a 35% diversion rate. Traffic on the arterial streets will increase, not decrease. No one has put that information on the table. Mr. Fromer asked a very good question, will there be public meetings? Well, at those public meetings that have been going on, no credible information on the benefit to air quality, to traffic, or cost are being given out to the affected communities. Meanwhile, as the cities learn more about this project, you're seeing city after city after city take an opposed position. One of the speakers that will follow me will present, I think, over 1,600 signatures on a petition that have been gathered just in the past weeks to oppose this project. I've been assured by Caltrans and the governor's office that this project won't move forward without an agency other than MTA holding people responsible and asking tough questions. What I'm asking you today is to ask those tough questions. How is it that you can use a funding model that's pretty simple but come up with half the price? I think MTA Commissioner Aranajarian is correct. I'm almost there. Is correct in his assumption that a P3 only works if the price is under $6 billion. So every effort is being done to make sure that the cost estimates are under $6 billion, when in fact, this project is going to be well over $10 billion. You owe it to the taxpayer, you owe it to the residents, you owe it to all of us to ask the tough questions, and I urge you to do that. I urge you to put a fork in F7 alternative to the 710. Thank you.
Please, and I've been told that we have this room only till 6 o'clock, so I am going to hold you to 3 minutes. After Odom and Sylvia, I have Joe Kano.
Correct.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the Commission. My name is Odom Stamps, and in addition to being a representative of the No 710 Action Committee, a broad-based community grassroots organization for our region, I've served as councilman and mayor of South Pasadena, and currently serve as the Pasadena Community College Board representative of Measure P Bond Oversight. And I serve as president of the South Pasadena Preservation Foundation, an original plaintiff that received the injunction against the further northward expansion of the surface or cut and cover 710. The committee first wishes to express its appreciation for the state administration's support of Senator Liu's bill, SB 416, which has been signed by the governor and is now enacted as Chapter 468 of the California statutes. Moving on, we would like to agree with Caltrans that the department, and only Caltrans department, is a lead agency for the EIR, EIS that may emerge from this process. The CEQA standards provide, in contrast to the NEPA standards, that only one agency can serve as lead, and that because of its responsibility for the state highway development, Caltrans is that single agency. Moreover, in order for California to serve as the appropriate delegate of the Federal Highway Administration for preparation of NEPA, the state itself must act as the lead agency and cannot redelegate that responsibility to a local or regional agency. Second, the Metro Authority is actually preparing this environmental assessment under contract with Caltrans as lead agency. This arrangement creates the inherent risk present when a lead agency assigns EIR preparation to a project proponent, and that the emergent draft and final EIR, EIS will reflect Metro's judgment, not the legally required independent judgment of Caltrans. Measure R.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Yeah.
We're really short of time.
Sure. The last 2 points that I would just touch on is that the $780 million raised under Measure R is not assigned for any particular project, certainly not a tunnel. And we'd like to make sure that you guys take that into consideration. And finally, that the financial feasibility of this most costly alternative has never been established. Anthony Portantino covered that very thoroughly, so I made a copy of this letter available, and apropos of December, I have a lovely coffee cup for each of you.
Thanks. Before we continue, this is just a presentation. We're not taking any votes here. You can send us your written comments. We're more than happy to listen, but I've got an agenda we've got to get through, and I'm not sure even if I give you 2 minutes or 3 minutes, we're going to get through this. So is there a way you can, say you're either supporting the project or you're not supporting the project, and let's just move forward?
Well, I'm here to complain about Metro. It's Metro's duty to...
Ma'am, I can't do anything with Metro. We don't control Metro.
I'm concerned about their outreach to
Then you need
stakeholders.
to go talk to the Metro board. We
You don't
can't do
listen.
anything. We don't control
Well, since
Metro.
they're in partnership with you, I thought you would be concerned that
All we
in
do
the
is
last month...
we're going to certify the environmental impact report when we finally get it. That's our role. There'll be some funding that's going to be charged to us to allocate, but if your complaint is with Metro, then you need to go meet with Art Leahy and meet with the Metro board. We can't help you with that.
Okay, well, I just thought you would want to know that in the last 2 months that we're trying to do outreach in the city of Pasadena, in the Northwest District, which is primarily Hispanic and African American, and we've tried to have a couple forums and then have invited them to come out, and they have refused. And so for that reason, the Pasadena city staff has told the Northwest Commission that was going to sponsor these outreach that they could not hold the event if Metro was not present. And I just don't think that's right, that they don't want to participate, because that should be something they should be doing before the draft EIR comes out.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject here? We have a number of people who come some distance from my region to speak, and I understand, obviously, in the interest of time, we don't only have this room till 6 o'clock, and we have some items to vote on. I'm wondering if we could allow a couple of the elected officials to come up, then ask others to come up and just put your name on the record and voice your support or opposition to the project. And if people want to submit comments, I will make sure they all get corrected. I appreciate everyone being here today. And I know many of you, we've been on this issue for many, many years. But I think it would be great if we get from our elected officials on the record. In the interest of time, I hope you'll understand the situation that we're in. I have to give up your room, and we have a number of items to vote on. But I do want to say one thing. Barbara, I know I'd like you to come up in just a second. And I want to say this to Metro. I've been watching this issue for a long time, starting from when I was a young staff guy for Senator Artoris in South Pasadena. It's been going on. The was supposed to be done in 1964. I really hope that when this document is done, a lot of these questions are going to be answered, because I will say that people in this room and others have consistently raised the same questions that I have raised about cost benefit. How much money this is going to cost us? How we're all going to pay for this? I think these are serious issues. So I trust, Doug, that as you're doing this analysis, what you're doing now, when we see something in the spring, that it's going to address the issues, because those are the questions I'm going to be asking. With that, perhaps
I'll make my comments short.
Again, I greatly appreciate everyone who made the trip out here today. I'm sorry that we're running so late on the program, just that we couldn't control the length of time on the resolution necessity.
Okay, I'll make my comments short. Just to clarify to the chairman, sir, I just want you to understand that Mr. Leahy is the force behind obfuscating this whole project. Mr. Leahy's the one that's directing these people not to give out information, to have very poor outreach, in El Sereno, which is largely Mexican-American community, we got the Walking Man delivery for the outreach, for the first outreach in September. You know what Walking Man is? It's a guy that goes around with a little pouch and puts a little paper on your door. $40 million and El Sereno gets that. Pasadena gets a real nice flashy presentation. San Marino, Alhambra, everybody gets a flashy thing. We get squat. We got disrespected and we do not appreciate it. And the same conditions that exist when the court filed injunctions against the 710 project exist today. They exist as they did then, they exist today. Northeast Pasadena and El Sereno, the majority of minorities live. But we will suffer disproportionate heart disease, lung disease, and medical maladies due to the pollution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilperson Barbara Messina.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick suggestion. I'm prepared to stay as long as people want to talk and listen, but maybe if we could ask them to wait and we work on our action items first. And get through that agenda. Just as an idea,
Let's let the council speak. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I am Barbara Messina, Councilwoman for the City of Alhambra. I am also the President of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, representing 2 million people in the San Gabriel Valley. We support this project. It has been, for a number of years, many, many more than I care to mention, a priority on our transportation projects. All of the issues that were raised earlier will be addressed when the EIS comes out, and we anxiously await that draft so that all of these correct information can be disseminated to people, because right now you're getting a lot of misinformation, and we are eagerly awaiting the draft so that it can all be addressed. Thank you very much, appreciate it. And Chief of Staff for John Pisana, who is our Metro representative, is here this evening in support of the 710. Thank you.
Richard Snyder.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll be very brief. I am Richard Schneider, Dr. Richard Schneider. I'm the Mayor of South Pasadena. First, I'd like to express our appreciation and thankfulness that SB 416, the Carroll Bill, was passed, and we now have some sort of resolution to all the houses and other properties that are owned in the corridor. And it was passed through the legislature unanimously in both the Assembly and the Senate. And that wouldn't have happened without the cooperation and support of Secretary Kelly and Mr. Doherty. So that's one thing. We're very happy about that, and we hope that that they will issue the regulations and get to the distribution and disposition of those properties. And the other thing is just one thing. The EIR will not address financial implications. No cost-benefit analysis of any sort has been done on the toll tunnel proposal. We request that the Commission take action to secure some sort of analysis of the financial feasibility of this alternative before the draft EIR is released and a whole new protracted legal process begins. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you. And we're going to have one more speaker before we go to that part of agenda item. So we have time, we'll come back to the other speakers. Councilmember Donald Voss.
Very good.
Good evening. I'm Donald Voss. I'm a council member from La Piñata Flintridge. As you know from your tactics, the State Route 710 project is currently in a study stage to determine whether there is actual need to address mobility at the northern terminus of the 710 freeway, and if so, by what economical means. And these are identified as the alternatives in your package, as Mr. Hilling described them. One of these alternatives is a 4.5-mile freeway tunnel currently projected to cost $5.4 billion. Today, I don't want to talk about the fact that the cities and communities of Sierra Madre, La Crescenta, South Pasadena, La Piñata Flintridge, Glendale, and Los Angeles are all on record formally opposing the freeway tunnel. And I don't want to talk about the devastating and potentially life-threatening effects the proposed tunnel would bring to families who live in proximity to existing freeways in the many communities that oppose the tunnel. Instead, I'd like to talk about what has so far been an elusive and missing ingredient in evaluating each of the mobility alternatives, and that is a credible cost-benefit analysis and a foundational methodology. Despite the fact that tens of millions of dollars have already been spent evaluating the mobility alternatives, and despite the fact that LA County Metro has earmarked $780 million for this project that isn't even yet defined, there is a lack of information to make a determination that any of the alternative projects would make financial sense. A methodology to quantify the benefit of any of the alternatives and to measure that quantified benefit against the relevant cost has not been made available, especially at this time in which actual costs of California mega projects in relation to budgets are coming under increased scrutiny, such as the new eastern span of the Bay Bridge. It is crucially important to understand a realistic cost estimate for each of these 710 project alternatives and the associated cost-benefit relationships. This is particularly true for the freeway tunnel alternative because, as currently projected, it would cost twice as much as all the other alternatives combined. I respectfully ask the commissioners to be watchful of all developments on this project, especially those related to projected costs and missing cost-benefit analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If we have some time before we have to leave the building, but we're going to go back. Okay, we'll do public comments.
I have one very quick question about Caltrans.
Yeah.
What do we, aren't we not supposed to do a cost-benefit analysis on large projects before we start? Is there some requirement?
There's a requirement during the process to do various financial analysis on the projects.
Is that done in advance of the EIR, in the EIR? Or
It'll be part of the project report.
Part of the project report, which is part of the EIR.
No. It's adjacent to the EIR. We can fold it into the EIR.
It comes before, right? Okay. So when do you expect that to be out?
It doesn't come before, it's at the same time. They're parallel paths.
So they'll be released together?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and can I make one thing clear is that Caltrans is CEQA and NEPA lead on the project, and we have made that clear at Metro
So you are the
Police.
lead agency?
Yes.
For both.
Yes, that's clear.
All right, we have,
I just would also note that our board has insisted on a cost-benefit analysis, which is part of this program.
Why haven't you done it?
Yeah, where is it?
I am the newest member of South Pasadena City Council, and I wish to speak to you very briefly today. It was not my intention to address you, but I think one issue that you have to ask yourself, and I would challenge you to ascertain and answer to, is what is required of Caltrans in order to serve as a lead agency? You may know that there is no memorandum of understanding between Metro and Caltrans, as one would expect, in expensing $40 million in consultant fees. What exactly is Caltrans doing presently regarding the preparation of a draft EIR? It takes more than simply a declaration of lead agency status, I submit to you, under CEQA, to so be recognized by California courts, and the same with respect to NEPA and federal courts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mary Lou, Addernock, how about Bill Sherman?
Hello, thanks for listening to me. My name is Dr. Bill Sherman. I'm on the TAC, which is the Technical Advisory Committee, participating in the EIR, EIS. And by that, I get information from CH2M Hill and Metro about what's going on with the EIR. And I'm very unhappy and dissatisfied with what I'm being told. They really have biased the study so that the only possible result is going to be a tunnel. They've started off with something they call scoping, where they elicited about 200 various suggestions on how to ease congestion in the study area. Then they went through with a very complex set of criteria, and they ruled out all but the existing 5. They went through a very complex system to do this, and this complex system is biased to select out for the tunnel. After completing this and getting down to 5, now all of a sudden they've sprung on us, instead of doing 2 bored tunnels, they're going to do a single bored tunnel. Now this single bored tunnel will be half the price, so it becomes very attractive, but it's never undergone any performance analysis. So they're presenting us something at the completion after the alternative analysis is done that has never even been studied, and this is what they give us. I'm not going to talk about the cost analysis because that's never been done. They haven't given us anything about air pollution. I just want to say that the EIR, EIS is biased, not done in a fair manner, and while they can refuse us, eventually there's going to be a person in a black robe, and they won't be able to stonewall that group, because the EIR is a flawed study.
Stephen Dolly, followed by Richard Hegelson.
He called Leland down. He's going.
He left when he seen it.
Dolly's here. I'm Richard Helgeson. I'm a former senior assistant city attorney for Los Angeles, followed by 8 years as general counsel of one of the port authorities that's actually providing electricity to this room. But I was involved in a lot of joint projects during my years and years of government service, and I spent 41 years as a government attorney. And in every one of, I've had approximately 30 joint projects. I had a lot of projects with joint port authorities, including the Alameda Corridor Transportation Authority, which Yvonne Burke, who was on this commission at one time, I actually oversaw. But in all of those, we never had a project that did not have a definitive written agreement, like this one does. You have no agreement, no MOU on all of these things that Metro is doing. You have no written agreement that allocates the responsibilities, defines who's going to do what, and that deals with and addresses contingencies that arise. And I think that's seriously, having no direct state control over the environmental review process, as you pretty much admitted they don't have, seriously implicates concerns over the Federal Highway Administration rules. So thank you very much for hearing me. One last thing, as you go through this informational process, I think I remember the Tom Bradley dream. I was there when Tom Bradley won the mayorship in 1973 as a junior attorney, and he dreamed of a light rail infrastructure throughout Los Angeles County, and I think that's where you should keep your sights on. Thank you very much.
Followed by Sylvia Plummer.
Why would he stay?
Call you again?
They liked you so much the first time.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for your attention. My name is Jan Suhu. I live in the city of Lackawanna, Flint Ridge, but today I'm representing the No 710 Action Committee. I've been involved in this study for about 4 years now, attending all possible public information meetings as well as the technical advisory committee meetings. And I'm here today specifically to present you with a printed copy of an online petition launched by the No 710 Action Committee, urging the removal of the F7X tunnel alternative from the study in favor of better, more fiscally and environmentally responsible solutions. And as of 9 o'clock this morning, we had 1,600 signatures, and I'm hoping that you will consider this an update rather than a conclusion, because our effort to gather more signatures is continuing, and in fact, having just checked the website now, the number has increased just since this morning, and will continue to do so. One other quick thing, you have a red folder that the No 710 Action Committee has provided with some information and reports. I want to take exception to Barbara Messina's comment that you are being presented today with a lot of misrepresentation and misinformation. In fact, the No 710 Action Committee prides itself on substantiating any and all information we distribute, and we do that primarily by using the reports issued by Metro and Caltrans on this study. In fact, you will find active links to their reports, URLs listed, bibliographies of their reports. We do not misrepresent anything. We don't need to misrepresent anything to make this seem like a bad project. They do it just fine on their own. And thank you very much.
Joanne.
I'll pass. I'm against the tunnel. Joanne Knuckles.
Harry Cap.
Harry Knapp, South Pasadena. I'm a former council member there and didn't grow up in the area. I grew up in upstate New York, so I came to California. I have an engineering degree. Actually, aeronautical engineering. I can talk rocket science if you want, but this is not rocket science. It's common sense. Anthony Portantino kind of touched on it. What's this going to do for our traffic? Now, Councilmember Messina and current president of the COG is longtime advocate saying it's going to reduce congestion and pollution. It's not going to do either one of those things. I hope all of you are familiar with the Valley Boulevard exit on the 710. People making a right turn there, going through Alhambra, that's an eastward dispersion. It's not a northern dispersion. Who in their right mind, going north on 710, would pay a toll, go through a tunnel, come out on a 210 going east or 134 going west? If you live in Alhambra, if you live in South Pasadena, if you live in San Gabriel, if you live in San Marino, Temple City, and if I lived in Monrovia or Duarte, I'd take Huntington Drive out there. I wouldn't go through a tunnel. And right now, as we speak, the 210 eastbound is marked lot. Why would you want to put more traffic on? I don't understand John Fasana. I was on the original board of the COG. He's been on there ever since. He's a forever councilman in Duarte. Why would he want more traffic on the 210? I can't understand it. It makes no sense. It drives you crazy. There's two environmental things I'd like you to really pay attention to when the EIR comes out. One is there's two health care facilities, one in each portal. North Portal and Huntington Hospital. Whatever they say they're going to mitigate effect on that, please pay attention. On the southern portal, there's a company called Griffles. They fractionate human plasma into its components. The burn that's right there coming off of Valley Boulevard, their plant is right abuts. In fact, even rent a building from Caltrans. They are a subsidiary of the second largest fractionator in the world. They're a subsidiary of Griffles SA in Spain. They FDA-controlled clean rooms, and I'll use a hyperbole. FDA doesn't want to see one molecule of dust in those clean rooms. And currently, the design, if you saw that, where that purple line coming down on the freeway, I think that Mr. Fallon showed, that's where the bore starts. It's covered up to there. That is where they plant the boring machine. That's right on the berm. 400 feet long, 200 feet wide hole right next to this plant. So we should hope you, and plus the geological concerns with the aquifers, you're going through earthquake faults, etc. Please pay attention to those various sites.
Thank you. And the last part of our meeting is open for public comment. Anyone else care to speak today? I'd like to turn our adjournment over to Fran Inman.